Hello, guys. We are live for Carnivore Muscle Ramblings, the live Q&A, hosted by myself and Jerome Armstrong. Today is segment number 47. We're delighted to see you guys today, or at least see your comments in the chat. But first, we'll be going over Jerome's current contest preparations. Then that might take 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. Then we'll go into the Q&A segment of this live. So stay tuned. Just be aware that super chats will be prioritized. So if they pop up in a chat, we'll actually answer them first. So that sounds like a great proposition to me. What do you think, Jerome?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Brilliant. Well, how are you doing today anyway?
Well, we talked a little bit offline. I'm feeling really run down this last week. And to kind of enumerate my situation, for those who don't know, I'm working between 85 to 90 hours a week. Some of these days I get maybe 2 hours of sleep a night, and that's somewhat intermittent. I think that's a big part of it, but I've stayed on diet. But the weirdest issue to me, and I've kind of hinted at this in previous weeks, is with the lack of sleep, with everything else going on, I just feel like I'm just retaining so much water, and it's gotten a little bit better. You and I talked a little bit. I'm kind of forcing myself to drink water. I know the audience can't see that. Hoping that kind of helps flush things out a little bit. So I guess for those who haven't been privy to our conversations, I've been drinking less than about 500 mils of water a day most days. I know the general carnivore advice is to just drink when you're thirsty. My problem is I almost never get thirsty, really rarely. So now I'm trying to drink about 2 liters a day. But I kind of have to force myself to drink that. And I have some electrolytes in here in a fairly low concentration, just sodium and potassium. And this seems to help a little bit, but my whole body just feels very angry. Joints are achy, tired, obviously, the lack of sleep, and just feeling very on edge. So that's kind of where I'm at. Weight hasn't budged in the last probably 3 or 4 days. And I strongly suspect, again, I'm just holding water, and I'm anticipating another whoosh. We've kind of talked before. It seems to be this trend of like up and down, and then sudden drop, and then it kind of does that again. But I've been sticking to the plan. I've still been getting my workouts in, haven't been logging them the best, but diet's been on point and still getting the workouts in. So that's kind of where we're at this last week.
Yeah, it's not a good position to be in when you just feel run down. When you're working over 80 hours a week, there's not a lot you can do. It's like, as much as myself or Jerome or anyone else that is well-versed in nutrition and exercise would say, oh, try this, there's only so many things you can try, only so many levers you can pull. Eventually you get tired, you get run down, and Jerome's been quite aware of this for quite a while now. I think the term we use over here is like burning the candle at both ends. And at this kind of point, we can just look at what we can achieve. So Jerome's still maintaining a strict diet. I believe he's having some kind of like niggles maybe to like eat more food or eat different kind of food. So we could perhaps touch on that as well. And his workouts are still going. He's still doing it. He's still caffeine free, I believe. So at least coffee free, caffeine free. So
yeah, I had one
he's
bad experience.
Doing his best.
But
yeah.
So and you very eloquently put it offline the last 2 weeks, because there's been struggles, and you're like, do you want to keep going? And it's like, yeah, I still want to try and achieve this. And I know we've been pushing that line hard, because on average it's been like 3 to 4 pounds weight loss, a kilo and a half to almost 2 kilos a week is pretty aggressive, but that's what we have to do to get there. So I'm not opposed to that. And some of this was anticipated. I really think if I can get a little bit more structure in my sleep schedule, that's going to be a big help. That's been kind of all over the place. But most days I have 4 consecutive days in a row working over 18 hours a day. And at best, I get about 3.5 hours of sleep at once. And then I might get about 45 minutes, maybe 6 hours later. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And I would like to see if I can get creative, maybe instead of having my 1 meal a day for dinner, make that lunch, or maybe make that breakfast and lunch. And then right when I get home, after leaving my studio, then I can get an extra 30, 45 minutes of sleep by not having to make that meal and then eat it. I think that's going to be something I'm going to try. And obviously forcing myself to drink a little bit more water. I'm not willing to give up on this project unless it feels like we've exhausted all options first. It's kind of where I'm at with this.
Yeah, there's a few little things we can play around with. Obviously, you started on 3 meals a day. You went down to 2 kind of intuitively. Then now for a little while, you've been doing like 1 meal a day. And I've just gestured to you, pick it back up to 2, see how you feel. And of course, like what a lot of people don't mention is, at least like bodybuilders, they don't mention like the outside lifestyle stress, like the things that kind of buzz you off a bit, but you don't really talk about online, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've had some stresses recently that led my blood pressure to be significantly higher than it's ever been in the past. But I'm addressing that myself. You know, I'm using more taurine, more structured with my sleep where I can be, so the lights are going off. I do find I just wake up in pain sometimes. So, you know, you have to manage these like symptomatic kind of things. So for Jerome, he can address all these things that he likes, but there's always an element of like human error where your brain can take over. It can remain in your subconscious where you try everything, and despite all efforts, these things don't seem to work out very well. But you know, there's still a lot to be said for just working hard and sticking at it, I think. So for those of you that don't know, I'm actually cutting or dropping body fat, just like Jerome right now, and I've been strict for my diet for the past, I'd say, I don't know, 2.5 weeks or something. I know by the 18th of this month, it'll be a 1 month mark. So far I've lost, I'm trying to think now, about 4.7 kilos, so about 10 pounds, but it's plateaued off quite a bit now. I'm noticing hunger started to pick up a little bit if I don't make sure my meals are containing a good amount of meat in each portion. Meat is very, very satiating because it's so nutrient dense. But when I've been doing, obviously, the dairy, that seems to have affected it as well. So with that being said, I'm probably going to look at Jerome's diet over the next week or so and see if we can fine tune anything. It might be that we just reduce the protein a bit, increase the fat, but we play around with the workout frequency. So for those of you that don't know, Jerome's been doing 3 sessions per week, about 5 or 6 sets per workout. High intensity training, you know, hard sets, pretty much compound, you know, heavy sort of movements for the most part. It might just be that he has to reduce the training a bit, and he's not going to lose muscle by training twice in a given week rather than 3 times a week. I think that may sort of lighten the load a bit, and it might mean that rather than, you know, training for half an hour, he might get an extra half hour sleep that day. So it might help in the long run. What do you think about that, Jerome?
Yeah, and I think I'll email you or send you a message on Instagram with my schedule, and we could probably get I know you suggested 2 days, but I think we could probably put those in on days where my workload is significantly less. That would probably allow for a better workout. Yeah, and I think it suggested either like Tuesday, Saturday, or something like that. But we'll talk more about that offline. But I think it's probably a decent option. And like I said, it's one of about 100, you know, dials that we could do small adjustments to at this point. There's always, you know, a myriad of things that you can fine tune. And I'm not ready to give up on the idea. You know, part of me stubbornly wants to be like, you know, if doing this project as aggressive as this is, the hours I'm working, as light as sleep is, you know, if I can do it, anyone can. You know, I would love to have a 40-hour work week, but it's not in the cards. And that's fine. I'll make it happen. So maybe I'm just a little stubborn and recalcitrant, but I'm not willing to give this up unless, you know, you hit a point and just say, no, Jerome, it's over. So it's kind of where I'm at least emotionally, but my body is kind of disagreeing with everything. Is sore. My joints are sore. I feel everything feels heavy. And I imagine if I got, you know, a decent structured sleep routine, that would make things significantly better. Not entirely, but I imagine make a lot of this a lot easier. And I knew that some degree of suffering is necessary in a contest prep. A lot of my old mentors used to say you have to feel real bad to look real good. And there's a certain element of truth to that, especially getting really close to the contest. So, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. mentally and emotionally in good spirits. I just stubbornly hate that my body has limitations right now, and I kind of want to just force it into submission.
Yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah, I get that. I think your biggest thing right now is not reducing food intake any more than it is right now. When your sleep's dysregulated, your circadian rhythm is dysregulated. So your hunger signaling will be a bit all over the place, especially if you're losing body fat, getting rid of toxins, busy doing work, regular sleep. So I personally wouldn't be keen to reduce your food intake to drop fat fast. That'd be one of the last things, like the last cards I'll be playing right now, just because your food intake is already quite low. I'm just thinking now, like I'm pretty hungry and I'm eating about a third more than you, or 50% more than you. So, I'm doing that 250 protein, 180 fat or something. So
Yeah. Well, if I can sneak in sleep the nights that I don't have my daughter, then that does wonders. You're not hungry while you're sleeping. So, and there's always, there's always a way to get the job done. So we'll make it work. It's just kind of giving you the update. I know you've heard probably 75% of this, but I want people that are listening to this to kind of get the context of some of this too.
yeah, I can kind of understand why a lot of bodybuilders use recreational drugs like sleep and be awake and like rock stars and stuff. All these people that are up funny hours of night, eating funny diets, drinking alcohol. I mean, Jerome's not drinking alcohol, but
Yeah.
your body's not right. There's only so far you can push it. And I think we're going to push it as hard as we can while still being safe without, bulldozing it all over and wrecking ourselves, I think. But I think it might just be a different approach we do. So maybe we, rather than push so hard for like the fat loss, it might be that he chooses a later show maybe or something, or maybe postpones it until a later point in time. That's two options we have. The third option is not doing a show at all. I guess the fourth option is just doing the show and just seeing what happens. But I kind of want Jerome to be in the best shape of his life when he competes. And there are things we can do. We can put him on a dry fasting regimen, maybe once every 7 to 10 days, just do a dry fast, see how that works out. But I know that hunger is going to kick in fast. People tend to binge eat after those things, especially when you're getting lean. So
yeah,
there's a lot to play with, but honest communication is where it's at. That's what I think to be true.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not willing to give up on this until if we hit a point where like 3-4 weeks out and you just we're looking at physique pictures and video and you're like, dude, it's for all intents and purposes not this show. Let's find another one. Then I'm fine with that. We can continue that. But I until we hit that point, I want to keep pushing the envelope as hard as we can. And you're right. I think of like Mike Menser a lot, his addiction and abuse of amphetamines. I can understand from an ergogenic standpoint how the utility of having a drug that keeps you awake and keeps you hyper focused on something. And like, ironically, yeah, I'm working 85 to 90 hours a week now, but if my studio was busy enough and like this was the only job I had and I could work 80 hours, I would still probably work 80 hours a week here just because this is so fulfilling. And I imagine you're quite similar. If you had 100 hours a week of coaching clients and emails and things you had to do, you would do it because you love what you do. And then you'd have to kind of get creative with how you can do it without, utterly destroying yourself. So yeah, trying to do this without even caffeine has been challenging. And for those who don't know, I had a cup of coffee last Wednesday and it like fucked me up really bad. I did a live video and then I took it down because I was so jittery and I was speaking a lot faster and having trouble finding the right words. So I think I really at this point, I'm completely down to go like the Anthony Chafee route, just red meat, salt, nothing foreign. That sounds so good to me right now because I think of how much that one cup of coffee jacked me up. But I don't know. I don't know. I know he says he says that last 1% makes like 10% of a difference. And maybe I haven't ever been that strict that consistently. but there's a lot of appeal to that, thinking like how hard we're pushing things now. If there's something that could make it easier, boy, that looks really appealing. So
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just being robotic. You know, when Jerome looks in the fridge, if he's got his own fridge, I'm going to be telling him, you know, just put meat in your fridge, just put your eggs in your fridge. If you put eggs in the fridge, I think you guys do over there. We don't.
yeah.
Your little bit of cheese or butter, just put all the things in there. Just have what you're going to have in that day on one shelf. Ignore everything else. Put maybe like a sugar-free squash or something in there if you fancy something a bit more interesting. Besides water, that's probably not going to break the bank, but you know, just find sort of enjoyment out of these like really bizarre things. Like I've got
Interesting
Pepsi Max here, and that's 0 caffeine one. So if you treated me to a professional 0 caffeine Pepsi Max, I'm gonna enjoy that tonight, and hopefully it makes a positive impact to my sleep. So
maybe I should do that. I keep thinking the opposite route: raise standards, push harder. Maybe that's not the best plan.
I think it depends how your mind is. Like for me, I like pushing harder and harder because I know there's a reward at the end of the tunnel. I know whenever I push really hard at something, I've achieved something.
Yeah,
I think you have to have the confidence in yourself where you've done that, you tried really hard and you've achieved something as a result of that hard work. Then when you've done that a few times over, that it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I don't know how to put it. If you wish success upon yourself and you perform the actions needed to require that or acquire that success, eventually it just happens. It becomes habitual. Like winning just becomes habitual. So when I've won my last shows, not my last show, but the ones before that, I was like, this is getting so easy now. I just have to replicate what I've done already. Once you've been there already, you've done it already. You just do the same thing again. Obviously, the diet changes, the train changes, everything like that. Your body changes, but you just know if you put that effort in, you'll get the same sort of result. And I'm always happy with that. Always be content with your best. I think that's something that people don't think about. I know people out there look at people like me and Jerome and think, oh, you know, oh, you guys have great physiques and it's unattainable. And like, yeah, it will be unattainable until you attain it. You have to set those goals in place, you know. And it's not going to be achievable to everyone. You know, people have different genetic set points, but you can get damn close to it. I've seen some people make pretty drastic transformations. I'm actually going to bring up a little photo in a second. If you want to talk for a bit, Jerome, I'm just going to find a picture of Jerome. So from when I started coaching him to present day, and I think some of you guys will be quite shocked. So if you just want to talk or go through the chat or something.
Yeah, and I was just say that like one thing that's kind of always on my mind is I guess two things. One, if you want to go someplace you've never gone, you have to do things that you've never done before. You know, the same rules, beliefs, values, standards, and habits that you have that you're performing on a regular basis has put your life in a certain direction. If you want more or different or better, you have to get outside of that. And two, something that's been in the back of my mind a lot is you can't say that you want a certain thing in life, whether it's a goal, whether it's, you know, an object. You can't say that you want something if you're not willing to engage in the regular work necessary to make that happen. You know, until then, it's this thing that's just rattling around in the ether in your head. But if you're not doing the work consistently, then there's something about you that is saying no about that goal. So maybe that kind of underpins my desire to try and find a way to raise standards even higher with this prep and find other areas in my life that I can get creative and maybe reduce the workload in certain ways or get creative with my sleep. Fasting if we need to go down that road, you know, those sorts of things. But to me, it's this goal, this contest is this is a massive goal of mine. This is probably one of the top 3 personal and professional goals that I have set for the next, 3-4 months. And it's always right there in the forefront of my mind. And it makes some things easier and it makes some things a little bit harder.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to share my screen now quickly. Hopefully it works. Okay. So you should see here a picture of Zbigniew. So on the left is him February time. Now, this was an update maybe, I'll say about 2 weeks ago. So this is what he's done in something, I don't know, like 6-7 months or something. He's gone from 8.
Well,
Old.
Jonathan. Oh, there we go.
But one of the most obvious things to me is his face is so much more. Yeah, how is it coming through? Is it all right?
I'm somebody in the audience. Oh, there we go. There are the pictures. Okay, I'm just seeing that now. So
okay, you might be lagging a bit.
it seems to be happening a lot recently. Thank you.
Yeah. So speaking of his face, he's got much more chiseled jawline, which I find quite amazing actually. And if you look at his physique, he's thinner, as in like his waist's much smaller, but his musculature is actually greater. And I can see this because he's getting a lot stronger in the gym. And if you look at his chest here, it's much more rounded out. He's got like a square chest, you know, that action man sort of chest, which I find quite impressive. He's got striations for his front delts. You know, you can't see it in this picture, but he's got detail in his upper and lower pec, which is quite impressive. And he's actually getting lower abdomen veins now. So this is what he's done in 6-7 months, and I've not killed him in the gym. I've got him to do 1 to 2 gym sessions per week. And doing, I think he's been doing for the last maybe month or so, just some sprints, like 2 sprints a week or something like that. So nothing major on a bike or, you know, outside. But if you look here, like 6 kilos down, but he's built muscle and strength. He's getting rid of, he's having a lot of issues with his skin. He's improved his skin around his elbows and his head quite a bit. He's still doing it without any stress, like, you know, no long cardio, nothing like that. Just sometimes he goes for a walk with his wife. And even his wife's jumped on board now, so she's training as well, just like as Big Nev, doing her own sort of thing. She's both on, they're both kind of like on a carnivore diet, and she's more on a ketovore diet. But he's doing this and he's happy. He's not starving hungry. He's not sat there at the clock waiting. He's not losing sleep over this. He's achieved this. You know, when he's spinning his wheels before, not sure what was going on. He's achieved this in about 7 months or something. So just wanted to do a shout out just to Zbigniew, just to show what can be achieved. Again, 49 years old, so he's not a spring chicken, but at the same time, he's not old. But he's achieved this on, you know, a carnivore diet. So it just goes to show. Just thought I'd show you that anyway, guys, just in case you were interested.
That's awesome. And what I love about that, I think the most, is it kind of pushes back against this idea that as we age, we're going to get smaller and weaker and more frail. And the more people you work with, the more you see that's not the case. You know, a lot of these things that are related to age, are associated with age, are not directly related to age. And men can build muscle and regain lost muscle well into their 60s, if not later. And yeah, you won't be able to have the same amount of muscle at 70 that you did at 30, but you can still be, you know, significantly heavier muscled and far more physically capable at 70 than most men your age, if you're doing things correctly.
Yeah, certainly. It does surprise me all the time. I'm hoping. I mean, I'm trying to think now. 21 years younger than Zbigniew. I'm hoping I'm still training the way he does at that age. You know, once, twice a week, just hard workouts. You know, he trains really hard. So it's a pleasure to see. We always watch his training clips and we think, God, I wish that I'm doing that at that age. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just from Zbigniew there. So that's who we just showed on the screen. And our pleasure. Yeah, we've shown him a bit about training and diet and stuff, but I think we've still got a few tools in the toolbox. What's interesting, I haven't had to push him too hard, which is really quite good. And he sticks to the diet, and it's incredible because, you know, kind of, you always think that people past the age of like 30 become a bit less motivated, less interested in things. You know, you just sort of spin your wheels. I'll go to the gym. I want to look a bit better, but he's got a goal in mind. I know what he wants to look like, and we're inching closer and closer towards that. We're trying to achieve that, doing the least amount of stress and devastation to his body as humanly possible. So just goes to show. But yeah, we're going to get to the Q&A segment now. So I'll go through the questions, and between those, I might go through a few little comments. Go to Ben's first. So he's left a super chat. So Ben said, how often to train each body part for growth? Now, this is a great question. It depends. I think the goal is to train as often as you need to train in order to continue growing.
Mhm.
The problem is if you train too often, you won't recover enough from that last session. So you'll notice from workout 1 to workout 2, assuming you're doing the same workout, if your lifts aren't going up, if your form isn't standardized, if things become more difficult in the gym, if just overall your whole experience in the gym is worse because you've not leveled up, so to speak, you'll notice that you won't be able to train very often. So you have to give that extra day. Now, for a lot of people, when they start training, a lot of people start with like a bro split. So it'll be chest, triceps Monday, Tuesday might be back biceps, Wednesday might rest, Thursday might be shoulders, abs, calves, whatever. Friday might be legs. I might add on an extra day to do something else. So people effectively tend to train most body parts about once every, I'd say 5 to 7 days is what the average person's training, at least out there, like right now in the world. Now, some people, if they really minimize their training, just do one set, they might be able to do 2 sessions per week. But I think as you progress with that one set, so you become more advanced, you can take that intensity level to a much higher degree. And I think by that point, you'll start to need more rest between workouts. And I've seen this with myself, and anyone out there can actually try this. So, it's not just me, doing hearsay sort of thing. So you train on, say, Monday the 1st of whatever month it is, do your chest press, try it again on Tuesday. You'll notice your strength goes down. Now do it again, replicate the experiment, try Monday, then Wednesday. Your strength's still not as great. Try it again. Eventually get to a point where you work out, okay, I need 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days between certain workouts, certain lifts. And you'll see that you're progressing in terms of strength. There's always limitations to measurements that we use in the gym to know that we're getting better. If we're getting stronger, it doesn't necessarily always mean that we're getting more muscular. It might mean that we're getting better neuromuscular or neurological adaptations to deal with that weight, but it doesn't necessarily reflect on the amount of muscle mass we accrue from workout to workout. And the same kind of token, it might take several of those level up in terms of weight stages in order to notice that strength gain in muscle. But what we have is strength. We have, so the weight lifted, or the time under load, how quickly you can cover between workouts and still get that session in. There's a few other things you can change as well, making sure the exercise is effective. Yeah, I think how often you train each body part, I don't know. I think somewhere between once every, say, 4 to, I don't know, 14 days is about right, which seems very vague. It's not very helpful. But it depends, of course, how many sets you do. And just make sure the sets you do are bang on, Make sure they're absolutely bang on. So you're working your ass off. So, you've left nothing on the table in that set. And that's how you're standardizing that, because, I could not move that weight for another repetition or another inch on the bar, on the rack, whatever it was. Then workout 2, okay, I could do it slightly better. I could hold it for 5 seconds longer. My form was a bit better. Then you've got better. Then you can say, okay, my recovery period for this particular body part, this movement, seems to be, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, whatever it happens to be. Then you level up, you increase the weight, increase time under load, do something that makes it more challenging. Then you hit it again and you try and do the same thing again. It's repetition, basically. It's repetition. It's a marathon, not a sprint. What do you think, Jerome?
Yeah, to most directly answer the question, probably as frequently as 3 days a week at most, if you're doing like full body workouts, maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and as infrequently as, I mean, it depends. That there are some crazy outliers out there, and unfortunately, this style of training, the high intensity training, tends to attract people who have tried more conventional training and haven't seen the type of results that they think they should have. So people that are usually good at something tend to stick with, what they started doing once they started seeing results initially. So people that tend to be really good at weightlifting, bodybuilding, tend to stick to a lot of the same kind of basic um, routines. And people that kind of come to hit usually have tried that, haven't had any results, and they've had to do a little homework and see, well, why isn't this working? And then they kind of fall into hit and start seeing some results. So it's, I tend to believe that most people that kind of come into hit probably in general need a little bit more in terms of recovery than most individuals. So um, what I would do if you're fairly new, pick a routine that you enjoy. Pick a whether it's full body workouts, upper lower split, push pull legs, bro split, and go to the gym with whatever frequency you want to go to the gym with initially, and train with whatever volume you want to train with. Your body will tell you when you've done enough volume in that workout. And if you're pushing your sets hard, there's going to be a very finite limit to how many sets you can do. And you'll see it. Like if your first set on the chest press is 300 pounds and your second set is 300 pounds for the same number of reps, third set is basically the same, you're probably not pushing those sets hard enough. But if you're seeing a significant drop off in performance on a set by set basis, it doesn't take more than 2, 3, 4, 5 total sets for a muscle group before you just feel fried with that particular muscle group. Um, so really pick a volume, a frequency, and a split that you enjoy doing, and then track your metrics in the gym as precisely and as objectively as you can. If you have a way to standardize your cadence, then standardize your cadence. Write down everything you do. And if you're training at a volume and a frequency that your body can recover from, then you should be getting stronger almost every single exercise, almost every single workout for quite some time. Once you near the limits of your genetic endowment for muscular size and strength, then you'll be pushing really hard sometimes to get maybe 1 or 2 more seconds time under load. Um, but at least initially, the first 6 months to 2 to 3 years, you should have continual and steady and relatively predictable improvement. And then if you're not seeing improvement on a regular basis, then you can start manipulating volume, frequency, body split. And that's where consultations with Jonathan especially can be fantastic, because given the number of variables that you could potentially adjust, Jonathan can save you a lot of time by looking at your routine, hearing, as many details about your training as you want to share, and then saying, this is what I would do. And he'll probably save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches in that regard. Um, so yeah, sorry to give such a general response. Some people as many times as 3 times a week for every muscle group, depending on how you're training. And I have some people in my studio that do an upper body workout one week, and the next week they're doing a lower body workout, and then the week after they're doing an upper body workout. So they're hitting every muscle group once every 2 weeks. And I had to get them down to that infrequent to get them to continue making progress. So it's one of those things that you have to play around with a little bit. Diet's going to influence it. Training, execution is going to be a big influence, and sleep, that thing that I can't seem to get any of, is going to be a big role in that regard. So I know we threw a lot at you, but best way to handle that, if that's something that you're struggling with, is to just save up a little bit of scratch, and you're going to save a lot of time. You're going to save months of frustration and a lot of headaches if you just book a single consultation with Jonathan.
Yeah, I think as well, like what you said there, as vague as you might think it sounds, you've elaborated on everything. Like these are all the things that you need to look at. And it'd be easy for a Jerome just to say, oh, okay, well, send me a super chat and it's do 3 sessions a week of a full body workout. What doesn't take you very far? Where does that take you past the first year of training? Maybe you're one of those outliers that Jerome mentioned, So what we kind of advocate for and teach for is principles. These are principles of training. From there, work it out yourself. So I've made a program, which I put on my website. It's something like Advanced Hypertrophy Programming 101 or something. And that explains everything we've just said, but in a slightly greater detail, because it's about 51-page sort of ebook PDF sort of thing. And they're all the things to look at. So that's why we couldn't tell someone what to do, but we can give you our best guess. Now Ben's very good. He tracks things meticulously. He's on point with his diet. He's very physically active. He's got quite a physical kind of job, at least in terms of like daily movement. And yeah, I think you just play it by ear, really, and don't be afraid to go against the grain. If sometimes you're like me, for example, right now, my elbows have started to become sore. So I spoke with Jerome earlier today. My elbows and wrists are a bit sore just from pushing such heavy weights. And I was thinking, I can decrease the frequency, so I could do the push workouts less often, or just all my workouts less often, or I can increase the time to load, so the weight that I'm using in my workouts is lower. So therefore, it's going to be less strain on my joints because I'd have to strain my joints so hard just to lift that weight. So there's two levers I can pull. I can pull both of them, or I could pull one. So for now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one lever, which will be the time to load one. So I'm going to push my, on average for push sessions, 60 to 90 second sets, from maybe 90 to 120 seconds. See how that goes. It might just be a bit of information I've got right now for whatever reason, because I'm dropping a bit of body fat as probably more toxins in circulation. Then I'll come back in maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks time and try again at the 60 to 90 second range. And that might be it. You have to think ahead, think on the ball kind of thing. Not be too dogmatic about your approach. Like, there's lots of ways to skin a cat. Like we know Declan that sometimes comes on the live. He trains very infrequently compared to most people. You get people like me who train, 4 times a week pretty hard. 6 to 10 sets per workout. That seems to work okay. Now, if I was in a different situation, if I was in Jerome's situation, under bright light all day, not sleeping much, might be 2 to 3 sessions per week. So it's very individual, and that's where the consultations come in useful, which Ben does book in, and he gets pretty good advice, I think. I'm actually going to send Ben a 20% off discount code just because he's been very forthcoming with his super chats and supporting my channel a lot recently. So look out for that in your emails, Ben. So appreciate your donation.
And that was an excellent point too. The more consistent you can be with your diet, with your exercise routine, and then only flipping one switch at a time or only adjusting one variable at a time allows you to be more objective with how your body responds. So you'll find the longer you do this that you might be a little bit more sensitive to some variables than other. You might be able to train a little bit more frequently, but you might have a very limited tolerance for a certain amount of volume within one particular workout. Or maybe you can handle 10 to 15 to 20 sets really, really hard in one workout, but that taxes you for 4, 5, 6, 7 days. These are all things that Jonathan and I usually have a pretty good inclination of what we would adjust working with a lot of people, but sometimes until you really standardize everything as much as you can and then only adjust one variable at a time, you really get a better understanding of how your body operates and more of what it needs in order to get you to have the best results that you can have.
Well said, yeah. Yeah, a lot comes into it. It's so bizarre just having a whole YouTube channel based on trying to build as much muscle as possible in the safest way. Just seems so odd now I think about it. I'm going to get some super chats. I'll do Jerome's first because his next. So thanks for the support and excellent coaching. My pleasure. I just wanted to point out that Jerome also donated £15 from our website recently, which is very kind of him.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so Jerome, you're not getting that back. So yeah.
Man, I need to get some sleep before I give you more money.
I'm taking advantage. He's like my what do you call it? There's a word for it. Sugar daddy. my demented sugar daddy.
Your demented is the very fair choice of word.
At the moment, maybe. Yeah. Just so you know, guys, I do have a donation option on my website. So I get 99% of the donations that come through my website, and it's, I believe, on the main page. It just says send a tip, type your name, email, I think, your amount. Then it takes you through to like Google Pay or your major debit and credit cards. Send some money through if you like. And I'll usually send you a nice email back just saying, oh, thanks very much, appreciate your donation and stuff. That'll be a personal email. So as amazing as that sounds, it's probably not that amazing, but there's an option there for you guys if you wanted to do anything, but no one's obliged to do anything. Now, where was I? Next. So this is related to a super chat, which is for a message earlier. So for a question earlier. Okay. I think he ran out of digits to or characters to type. So imagine it's he, almost 38 years old, started Mensa's ideal routine in late June, have since put on 1.7 pounds of muscle and 1.7 pounds of subcutaneous fat and lost 0.5 pounds of visceral fat down to 0.37. Is this good for my age? Is that the higher volume or the lower volume routine that he does?
Mentor's ideal routine is maybe 5 sets of workout. It's chest and back one day, then legs the next day, then shoulders and arms, then legs again, and then back to chest and back.
Is that on a 4-day split or to a 3-day split?
It's generally, depending on his book, once every 4 to 7 days.
Okay, it's quite spread out. Yeah. I think, yeah, sounds about right. Most people seem to gain a bit of fat when they do that, just because you're not doing as much fitness, you're not doing as much expenditure with that kind of workout. So yeah, I think if someone wants to stay really lean, they're going to emphasize doing just more training sessions, obviously relying on diet as the main factor. But if someone wants to put on muscle and a sticking point, you could just reduce the training output. I mean, good training is good training is good training. It was what builds good muscle. At the same time, you might risk the element of gaining some body fat. Now, saying that, half fat to half muscle is a pretty good ratio, I think. I'll be quite happy with that at 38 years old. As long as I'm still metabolically healthy, I'm not gaining body fat to the point that I'm becoming a bit, what's the word, obese, maybe. But yeah, what do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that. So the way I look at it is, if you were to stretch that out over a year, and like neither Jonathan nor I know where you're at in your training history. So if you've been training for a relatively long time, I'd say that's quite impressive. So that's about 3 months, right? All of June, all of July, all of August, because we're just starting September. So, 1.7 pounds of muscle in 3 months. So what would 1.7 pounds, if you carried that progress out through the year, times 4 would be it'd be 6.8 pounds of muscle in a year, which is pretty significant. I think most trainees would be relatively happy to have almost 10 pounds of muscle gained over the course of a year, or 7 pounds of muscle. If you're brand new to training, you probably will do better still, or there's probably some things that we could fine tune to improve your results. But if you're, maybe have 2+ years of consistent, relatively intense strength training, I'd be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I'd take that as well. I think when you get to the point where you look at your numbers and you think, okay, June to what we now in start September, that's like what 3 months or something. I think by the time Christmas comes around or the end of the year, if you're still looking at 1.7 pounds of muscle and 1.7 pounds of fat, I'd keep going. It's just when that ratio starts to switch, when the fat starts to go up disproportionately to the amount of protein, that's a signal that your body is becoming less insulin sensitive, and those nutrients aren't quite partitioning themselves as well. So by that point, we can do is just reduce the food intake. So reduce the fat if you're on a carnivore diet. Then I'd keep doing the same thing, and eventually that fat on your body will begin to, break down, kind of thing, to fuel your body. You'll still be able to build muscle tissue because you're still putting the substrate in. So that's how you'd gain muscle versus fat. But for right now, 1.7 pounds, I'll take it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's a good gain, I think.
And the next time you're at the grocery store, I would physically pick up a 1 pound or a kilo chub of really lean ground beef, and just appreciate that this is the mass that you've added to your frame. Because you can always drop that fat, but if you're just looking at the muscle, whether it's like a 5-pound tube of meat is a pretty significant size. And granted, that's spread out over the course of your entire body, but that's a significant addition. And it doesn't always show when, we're wearing different shirts that we put a little bit of muscle on. You're not necessarily, your sleeves may not really be much tighter. Your chest may not look a lot bigger, but when you're physically standing there holding it, have some appreciation. It's building muscle is hard to do. It's something your body doesn't want to do. You literally have to force it to happen in your physique. So that's a hell of an appreciation. I'd be proud as hell of that, and excited about what the future, the next, 6-12 months has in store for you. And really, I don't know what your goals are, but now's the time to really get excited about it and think like, man, I'm just getting started. I'm going to put another 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle on my frame. And then think about how I'm going to look when I have that, and just visualize that. That's really exciting.
Yeah, take every win you can get, I think.
Mhm.
I'm going to invite Sophie on now. Well, Sophie actually has her own YouTube channel now, which we mentioned last time, but I'm going to bring her on. How's it going?
Hello, how are you all?
Doing well, Sophie. How are you?
Good. Sorry, you guys just froze then. So I knew this would happen as soon as I come on it.
Did we freeze, or were we just messing with you and holding one pose?
Told you I shouldn't. I didn't hear that, Jerome.
Oh, I was saying, did we actually freeze, or were we just gaslighting you and sitting still for
Then
10
you're
seconds?
bloody good at it because you keep doing it.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but
You
there's a
kept
bit of
freezing
latency.
again. I went robotic. So do you know what? I'm not going to ruin the video, and I'm just going to come off it because I feel like it's going to keep doing it. As I've been on here less than a minute, and it's constantly done it.
So if you're watching this back later, and you'll see what we mean. You're about 5 seconds behind, I think.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe next time.
Yeah. I see you guys.
See in a
Good to
bit.
see you, Sophie.
I want
Thanks
paid
for
for
guest
this, by the
appearance.
way. What is paid?
Paid by the minute.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you soon. I guess we got a guest appearance there, guys. 3 for the price of 2.
There's a price?
I don't know. I don't know what the price is.
Time.
For your time. All right, there we go. Let's go to the next super chat. We've got quite a few super chats today, but we'll get through all of them. I believe next in queue is Zbigniew. Then I think there's one from Baddest Cats. So we'll go through those. Yeah, that's it. So how should I reduce electrolyte supplementation? Personally, I'd probably do it as slow as possible. I'd be conscious of the sodium intake that you're having with those electrolytes as well. A lot of them do have sodium in them. So be conscious that if you're going to reduce them, maybe reduce it by, imagine if you're taking 1-2 servings a day, reduce that by maybe a quarter of your total amount. Try that for 3 days until you get on. Try it again, quarter again, 3 more days. That's probably what I'd personally do. Now, with that being said, I'll probably increase your salt intake just a little bit. That might make the transition a little bit easier on you, just because those things do often have a lot of sodium. So be conscious of that as well. But I don't think there's anything magical about that sort of thing. Some people just seem to benefit from it. Some people don't. I'll use an electrolyte powder that I wouldn't say affiliated with, but I'm good friends with the manufacturer of it. And that's Keto Pro here in the UK. It's manufactured by Richard Smith. So he's a ketogenic carnivore physique athlete. I think he does endurance sports now. But he has a product which he gave me, and I think it tastes all right, and it's a good product. I only use that on days where I use about half of a serving, which is next to nothing really. I put that in my intra-workout drink, which is usually just water, and I'll sip that, and I won't often finish it in the gym. But I find that quite useful, and that's only on days where I'm not eating a large breakfast, where perhaps I haven't slept as well, I'm a bit dehydrated. I might use that as like a kind of bump, but outside of that, you probably don't need it. So, yeah, just phase it out slowly. I mean, Jerome, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends. If you have like those packets that go into water bottles or something, I would probably, if you have a way to cut down a half a packet. Otherwise, the other thing you can do is keep the number of packets the same, but just dilute it more. So if you're normally mixing into a 16-ounce bottle, mix it into a 24-ounce bottle, and then try to keep your water intake about the same amount. I agree with what Jonathan said. You don't want any massive changes in your electrolytes, probably any faster than over about a 3-day period. And what I always kind of go back to with that is the contests I've done in the past in bodybuilding, where I spend months sodium loading and water loading and then deplete, it's like 3 to 3.5 days that you can kind of play with your body's ability to eliminate electrolytes at a really high rates before it kind of adapts again. So the smallest changes you can reasonably do and relatively infrequently, nothing big over like 3 to 4 days. And then if you make one change, don't do anything again for another like 3 to 4 days. But I would probably, if you have a couple of packs a day, 1 or 2 packs a day, I would just dilute it in a bigger body of water and then try and keep your fluid intake about the same.
Yeah, that sounds fair. Good question. Yeah, not many people talk about coming off supplements. It's an interesting perspective to have because people usually want to do addition when it comes to diet. The carnivore diet's unique in that we're actually telling people to eat less things. So it's very strange to get that question, but I understand where he's coming from. It's a good question. So
yeah,
there we have
it. And I don't know if your experience has been like this, Jonathan. We're both in a number of carnivore diet for beginner Facebook groups, and we see a lot of people that are relatively new that start going relatively hard on electrolytes. And some of the people that have been doing it for a few years now are thinking like, how do I get off of electrolytes? Same way, everything, with diet, slow changes done gradually, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you're adding or taking away electrolytes, if you're transitioning to carnivore diet, or it doesn't matter if you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show. Be consistent, slow changes over a long enough period of time, and that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, nothing magical there. Mm-hmm. Very easy. Sorry, we did miss Rick's question. How can I experience problems despite never using electrolytes, rarely using salt, and living in a hot place like Florida? I've got a theory based on what I know about you, Rick. So Rick's not really had processed food in any large quantity throughout probably his entire sort of adult life. So he's never had the additional sodium, salt, junk in his foods since that time. So his body has adjusted to that amount of salt in his body. And he probably is just maybe a bit more efficient, probably has a better digestive system than most people. He's never really ill. So that tells me he's healthy. So what he's doing right now is effective. Now added to that, I mean, you've got the aldosterone raising, the antidiuretic hormone going up. So it means he's holding on to more water. So despite him being active, sweating outside in the Florida sun, he probably doesn't actually sweat that much. Now I know he is a fan on a lot of time in aircon, but saying that, I think it's probably quite sensible. Probably comes in when he gets too hot, listens to his body, and that's my theory as to why he never uses electrolytes and how he thrives in Florida. What do you think?
Yeah, I would lean in that same direction. I think about people that eat really, really clean, and then maybe they have pizza one night or McDonald's or something, and they have a massive hit of sodium, and then they just retain tons of water that next day. They wake up feeling like a water balloon. And then there's also people like construction workers that go there for lunch 5 days a week and constantly have these really high sodium meals, and then their body just kind of adapts to that. I think there's some genetic variability, but for the most part, the body is wonderfully adaptive to a wide variety of stresses and stimuli. And just one other really small point of information, we tend to think of like aldosterone and the renin-angiotensin system and antidiuretic hormone as manipulating water, but usually they're telling your body to retain sodium, and then the water follows salt. But yeah, I think Jonathan pretty much nailed that question.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yes, of course. Is there any danger in such quick fat loss like Jerome's? Do you expect any advert hormone response? Maybe it messes sleep. Just thinking. That's a good question. I can see why I asked it. Mm-hmm. I think Jerome's sleep issues are the fact he can't sit still and go to sleep for like 8 hours straight. I don't think that's an option for him just because of his time constraints and his work. A lot of his work at the moment is front loaded in terms of the week, but then he kind of tapers off towards the back, but he has other responsibilities, other things to do with his clients where he is perhaps busier on the Thursday, Friday kind of part of the week for a lot of the weeks. Of course, he has a daughter as well who he looks after on the weekends. So that adds to it as well. And you can't sort of have someone you love coming around to see you and you're just asleep the whole time. So it takes a big man to put family above personal health and well-being, which is, I quite admire that, and I think Ben does as well. So yeah,
Thank
I mean, are you concerned at all about your fat loss and hormones? I mean,
I think
I'm a bit, but I think it just happens.
Yeah, not so much about hormones. I think there's something very valid because toxins can get stored in body fat. And if we're breaking down body fat rapidly, it can pose additional stress to the liver. And thankfully, by eating a carnivore diet, I think my liver has far less detoxing to do than it does for people that are on a standard Western diet. So I guess it's not too big of a concern of mine. I always kind of keep that in the back of my head. I know Harry Serpanos is not a big fan of relatively rapid weight loss for its potential stress on the liver, but I think a lot of that is due to deuterium. So it's kind of in the back of my head. I guess it's not too big of a concern to me. Sleep is the big thing. I think if I could, I mean, a lot of nights, like I said, I have 4 straight nights every single week where they're 18+ hour work days. And on those days, I don't sleep for certainly not more than an hour and a half straight. And then if I get an hour and a half, it's probably another 5-6 hours before I can sleep another 45 to 60 minutes tops. And so a lot of these days, when I have those 4 days in a row, it's 2.5 hours sleep, probably tops, 4 days in a row. So it wears on me. And I'm trying to get better with scheduling sleep. And I think quality sleep will make things probably 50% better. But I do anticipate a certain degree of suffering in this process. But I'm not too terribly worried. I should get some blood work done. I would imagine, as inflamed as I'm feeling, I would suspect my LDL would be higher than normal. I would suspect my AST and ALT liver enzymes would probably be higher. So oddly enough, like more recently, and I guess I'll see how it works. I kind of want to keep it up for a while. I still hit my macros, but instead of having butter, have more egg yolks and see if the cholesterol helps a little bit in that regard with how I'm feeling, maybe how I'm sleeping. Maybe it makes me a little less stiff, a little less sore. But yeah, after the end of those 4 days straight, I'm wrecked. But
yeah.
You put the blinders up and you do what you have to do to kick ass and make it happen.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that kind of change. It's a very reasonable change as well. The reason why I just put butter in most people's plans is because you can use it as a lever to add or subtract fat very easily.
Yep.
But with egg yolks, I have no problem swapping out the fat percentage or the grams with egg yolks. So it makes it easier for you. And obviously it's nutrient dense as well. So,
and cheese is a great way. And I think that's probably, aside from me living in Wisconsin and loving cheese, I think cheese was probably in there too, because a lot of cheese around here is 1-to-1 grams of fat to grams of protein. So it's very easy to weigh out a certain amount to make sure you're hitting whatever macros you have to hit. But I've essentially dropped cheese because I found myself proportionally having more and more and more. And then it's like, oh shit, now I have to cut back on food that's actually going to satiate me a little bit.
It's the hyperpalatability thing. Like, I think from a longevity standpoint, when you're cutting, you kind of want to choose the foods that are going to give you the best bang for your buck. And yeah, cheese will be enjoyable. You'll probably enjoy, I don't know, 4 ounces of cheese more than you'd enjoy 4 ounces of beef. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't hit the system quite as much in terms of like your body, your satiety factor wouldn't quite be reached. So yeah, these are all logical, sound arguments.
I feel I should have told you. I just remembered it now. The other day, I had a 16-ounce, 1 pound block of cheese in one sitting, and then I just wanted to cry because I'm like, I have almost no food the rest of the day now. And that's
the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I had that block of cheese, and I'm like, I'm not even full.
It's a joke, isn't it? That's why they use dairy and stuff for gaining, because you barely know it doesn't hit the sides. That's like one of those lessons. You have to be conscious of all these things. But now Jerome's done it, and he's sat there and he's like thinking, "Oh Christ, I've barely eaten today." Well, now he knows. Now he knows. Like, yeah, you got to get that meat in. I think I think a lot of people are right online. I think they say 80% meat or more by terms of like your protein content. I would agree with that. I think whether that meat be fish or meat or, you know, chicken thighs, whatever you like, I think it has to be meat. Probably for most people, but yeah, there we go. We'll never learn. We've got a question from Baddest Cat. Are there any areas that should be trained more or differently for individuals who have to stand around most of the day? So I imagine if someone's quite fatigued on the legs, would they train the legs differently? I'd say no. However, the only exception would be where someone is perhaps having joint pain. If they're always on their feet, they're doing 20, 30,000 steps a day, they're bending down, squatting down to pick stuff up a lot, there probably is some muscle damage there already. So they might have a high propensity to have sore knees. So they might leverage things like time to load, so increase the time to tension of a given set. They might add in intensify techniques, so they're not having to spend so long in the gym if they're doing leg days. So they might, rather than doing, say, I don't know, 6 to 10 sets for legs, they might just do 4 or 5 sets, but just take each set to eccentric failure. So just dig into that set a bit harder. That's all trial and error. It's all hearsay, me saying that. I wouldn't know without living in someone's body really, or getting a lot of measurements and stats from them really. But Jerome, would you do things much differently? Would you change exercises maybe, or intensity?
Yeah,
or...
I guess if someone's standing all day, if they're largely standing and not moving, I would try and make a point, and I know most jobs will recommend, once an hour that you at least do a couple of body weight squats. Just move a little bit, stand and kind of put your hands in front of you and touch your knees to your hands. Get some general mobility in if you're standing all day, and especially for people that sit all day. I can understand how hip flexors can become really, really tight. And I think some of these are great instances of times that you kind of need to listen to your body. And if you're standing all day, at least jobs that I've had in the past, and if you're not moving a lot, you're just standing, lower back can become really, really tight. So really, maybe give that a little bit more direct work. And if you want to hit lower back a little bit more frequently and just not push the sets as hard, maybe just take it until you get a slight burn in the lower back. Just because you're going to want to keep mobility with that muscle group and with the joints in that area. But I would listen to your body. The second things start feeling a little bit tight, there's a couple things you could do in that regard. But if you're on your feet all day, try and get a little bit of movement in. If you're sitting all day, try and stand up at least once an hour and, go to the water cooler, do 5 to 10 body weight squats. Just move a little bit. And that little bit of movement can go a long way. And Jonathan is looking super serious right now. Froze on my end. I'm not sure if anyone else has the same experience. Oh, there we go. I hear you now.
Oh, yeah.
And I see you.
My back.
Yes. You probably never left. I'm just going to assume that the internet on my end, it's been awful recently, and I don't know why. The bill is paid, so that's not it. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Apologies about the internet, guys. So the Wi-Fi router is about 8 feet below me, but we're looking at getting a second one installed. And I've been told that the average Wi-Fi router around here should extend to about 30 to 40 feet. My signal is very low, so I have no clue why this is like this. So it's beyond me, but we're trying to get better Wi-Fi soon. So another box basically to put upstairs. So that might reduce this sort of instance from happening. So apologies for that. We've got a question from Sophie, actually. Question, not a question. Show us your guns.
I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt again, but
That's all right.
go ahead, Jonathan.
Too much. Oh. Here we go. Yeah, I'm a bit flat, a bit deflated, so I need to get a pump first next time. Sophie needs to give me a warning in future.
I should keep some exercise bands under the desk here.
Yeah.
You would be happy to know, Jonathan, that every time I catch one of Nicole's videos live, I always tag it with Q, and then I say, show us your guns.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, she likes that. She's got pretty good biceps considering she's like doesn't train much at the moment. You know, I know she used to train, but she still maintains some good muscle. So yeah. So Lamb's one of the moderators, or my moderators, said, please like and subscribe to Jonathan's Fine YouTube channel. When you're at it, these are also highly recommended. Yes. So this is Jerome's channel. This is him.
One of those ways.
That's not Jerome. That's the other one. One of those ways. And Sophie, she was there earlier, but that's her channel as well. Sophie's putting out 1, maybe 2 videos, maybe every week, maybe not. Depends what time allows, which I'm going to be doing some minor editing for just to help out a little bit. And that'll just be videos about being a mum on a low-carb sort of diet of 2 little girls. Some training sort of stuff, some recipe stuff, some food stuff, some grocery stuff. Just about like mindset as well, to talk about people, to try and reach people that are trying to achieve a big weight loss goal. So that's kind of the focus on her channel, and she's putting out some great content as well. I don't edit it very heavily. I want to keep it realistic and authentic, but if you're not subscribed already, please check her out. She's currently got 85 subscribers, and she started about a week ago, so she's doing good. It took me like ages to get that many. Yeah, very good. So we're going to take one more question, I think. Rick said, yeah, about the stuff, about the heat. Yeah, sleeping grounded might help. My mum's nicked my grounding mat, which is really annoying. Yeah, she probably needs it more than I do right now, but yeah, those sort of things are probably quite useful. It's hard to say that. I mean, I've had on and off experience of those. I know that if I'm sat down or lying down outside, my inflammation feels less. Like I feel less pained. But when I've been in bed, sometimes I feel a bit, I don't know what is like wizzy when I'm using a grounding mat. I don't know if the electrical current is like off or something, or the wrong whatever. But yeah, those things can be a bit hit or miss. But if you're grounded to the earth like properly, and not through some artificial electricity field through your house, then it's probably fine. But I'm definitely not an expert at that sort of thing. So
yeah, I need to find my grounding mat. I still have some things kind of in storage from the last time I moved. And when I first got a grounding mat and I was sleeping with it, I was having really vivid dreams almost every single night for a couple of weeks since I got that grounding mat. And I need to find where that is and dig that out again. Otherwise, maybe I just order another one. Yeah, thanks, Mike. I probably should have thought of that, but sleep deprived brain.
Yeah, that's it. Also, subscribe as well to Rick's channel, which is the Quacker Diaries, which is, I don't know, Charger Mopar 40-year Carnivore, I think. But his link's down here anyway. He's got well over 1,000 subscribers now at this point. I imagine like close to 2,000.
Nice.
And he put some interesting stuff out, like really seemingly obscure videos, but actually quite entertaining videos, which I actually quite enjoy watching. So he's one of my mainstays right now that I actually get out my way to watch a lot of the time. So check out his channel as well. And this is Steph. Hi, Jonathan and Jerome.
Hello.
This is Steph. I've been working with her now since, I don't know, about the start of the year. She's been a carnivore for, I think, about 8 years, something like that, a pretty long time. She's been getting incredible results, and she's been doing that with quite serious health issues. So she actually has a YouTube channel as well, actually, if you guys want to follow her. I think her YouTube channel name is just Stefania Mariso. So check out her channel. She's done quite long format videos where she goes into a deep dive kind of talk about her experience on the carnivore diet. Some other stuff as well about health, and that's all for you to watch, all available. So recommend checking that out as well. But yeah, she's going to get ripped up. She's going to get ripped. She's gaining at the moment. She's trying to build a bit of muscle first, but we've got high hopes for her next year, hopefully, on the competitive scene.
Excellent.
There we go. What are your thoughts on shop-bought minced beef? I've recently started buying beef directly from my local butcher, and it tastes so much nicer. It is also, yeah, that's interesting. I've tried lots of different beef from lots of different places, so from farm shops, butchers, and the shops. I noticed that store-bought beef seems to be kind of pink, but then the stuff we get from the butchers is like a darker red, like a deep reddy sort of purpley color. Why that is, I think it's hung for a shorter period of time if it's in the butcher, or at least the blood's had a bit of chance to hasn't had all the chance to run out yet. I think it could also be the cut of meat. It could be a bit fattier, because I think by nature, I think beef isn't really fatty to the point where it's like 20% fat. I think they have to add beef fat to that to make that kind of that sort of ratio in terms of fat to protein. But yeah, I'd say over here it does taste better. I actually asked Sean Baker what he thought of our beef here versus in the States, and he said it's comparable. So, you know, our grass-fed stuff is as good as your grain-fed stuff, apparently. Yeah, but he I don't know if he's trying to be like, you know, quite what's the word? Like not piss us all off sort of thing, and take the mick out of our sheep and beef. Okay. Yeah, I think he's trying to be like, what's the word? Politically correct. I don't know. But yeah, I noticed that the beef from the butchers tends to be leaner as well. It tends to have a different kind of cut to it, or a different kind of mince profile. When we get the packs here, it's not often, you know, when it comes around in like loops almost. Our butcher meat usually comes in vacuum sealed packs, and it's kind of like mush, like a compact, solid kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not really convinced either one's going to be healthier. I just noticed that the farm shop one is leaner, probably a bit fresher as well. So it could be good. But I don't think there's anything solid out there we know about it other than it's probably fed a bit of better diet, maybe. That's about it. What do you think, Jerome?
Yeah, and I've tried a lot of beef from a lot of different stores. I think some of the taste differences probably come down to whatever blend is used, but also whatever how coarse or how fine the grind is. There's a store around here that grinds really, really, really fine to where the beef almost tastes like slime. I've never thought 100% beef would almost be unpalatable, but I really struggle to buy beef from this one particular store. And then there's Costco, of all places. Their ground beef is cut relatively coarse, and then they don't really do much with it. They loosely pack it onto a styrofoam tray and wrap it in plastic.
Ours comes the same here.
Yeah, and it's a thicker cut or thicker grind than usual. And granted, that's like 88/12. It's pretty lean. So in terms of nutrition, just buy the best stuff you can reasonably afford. If you can afford to support someone locally and you have the freezer space, do it. I want to pick up a big freezer chest at some point, because I do have access to local 100% grass-fed beef at a reasonable price. I just don't have the storage at the moment. And I'm a guy and I'm pretty easy in that regard. So sometimes it's just easier to go to the store, you know, on my way home or something, and pick up a couple pounds of mince, for dinner that night, instead of going to the freezer and having half a cow or something. So carnivore is way overcomplicated. Just buy the highest quality food you can reasonably afford. You don't have to break the bank trying to get the highest quality, 100% grass fed, massaged, personally named and photographed and hugged every day cows. Even the most feedlot beef is still so much healthier than, vegetables and the standard Western diet. So I'm just rambling at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are anal about, buying the best of everything. And I think what it comes down to is cost. I'd rather see someone spend that extra bit of money on something which, one, they like, and two, that they can access easily and free. Something that just makes them feel good. Like over here, we have a glass in our Lidl ground beef. I've actually found fragments of glass in the minced beef over here 4 times, exclusive to Lidl. So I don't buy from there, and I don't recommend that anymore, obviously.
Sure.
But I've had good luck with Aldi, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, M&S. Tesco's not too bad, not my favourite though. But yeah, it's not too bad over here. We got the same similar sort of style change to you guys.
You actually have a video, don't you, on tasting different beef from different vendors?
Yeah, some of those are a bit. Some of those burgers aren't quite appropriate for a lot of people in carnivore. I think Steph's one of those people that perhaps wouldn't try those sort of burgers. But yeah, a lot of them have got a lot of fillers. I mean, some of them actually use pea protein as like a filler nowadays. It's weird. Like pea flakes. Weird.
Yeah. It's sad. You wouldn't think that you would go to the freezer if you want just a couple of frozen burger patties and actually have to check the ingredient label, but you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, it's a good question. For a point of reference to people that are watching this or listening to this and they're wondering what the cost difference is over here in the UK, all beef in the UK is 75% plus or minus a little bit grass fed, and that's over the course of a year. The cost differential, assuming you're buying 10% beef mince or ground beef, works out something like 11 or 12 British pounds per kilo. And to get the same in a store versus in a farm or butchery, you're probably looking about £8 or £9. So the cost is 15-20% more. So over here, you're not breaking the bank that much. But for a student on a budget, yeah, you're going to be scrounging pennies. You're going to be, buying the cheaper of the cuts. Buy 20% lean is much cheaper than 10%. So we pay less for fattier beef over here. It's probably the same over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it depends where you go. So I made a big spreadsheet just for me with different cuts of beef, the ground beef, steaks, and a wide variety of stores, and trying to figure out where could I get, the most grams of protein per dollar. And for me, it's frozen beef patties from Aldi of all places, at least this time of year, 85-15 beef, which I've been eating for this contest prep. I can get for like $3.20 a pound. And it's 100% beef on the label. It actually tastes pretty decent too. It's one of the better frozen burger patties I've ever had. But it's kind of fun being a bit of a carnivore sommelier and getting used to how different cuts of steak taste a little bit different, and different frozen beef patties taste different from different stores. So some joy to be had in finding that out.
Yeah, I've been having, I think like beef roasting joints, we call it over here. So a big kilo block of meat in like a tube rolled sort of thing. For the last few days or so, I've been just slow cooking that in the slow cooker. Just literally just hot water and the beef, cook it on high overnight, then leave it on medium maybe for like 6-10 hours, take it all out, just let it all drain out. They're just picking it apart and it comes out like a beef brisket. And for me, it's really easy to weigh out, really easy to just chew, get in. Sometimes get stuck a bit in my teeth, but not expensive. Works out like, I think it's about £8 a kilo or something in Tesco. So for you Americans out there, it's something like $10.50 per kilo, or for just over £2. So it's not a bad buy at all.
No.
And that works out well. And we put it in a big box. So just pick out a bit each meal, have some eggs with it, some cheese, whatever I like. And that's that. There's nothing magical. But yeah, I think we're going to end this chat soon because Jerome needs a wee.
Yep, always.
Yeah, grass-fed beef in a lot of countries is way more expensive than it is here. For a lot of guys, like in the US, it's probably not worth the investment. In more and better eggs, yes, because there's more fat in better eggs, and the difference in quality of fat seems to be higher by ratio when it comes to good eggs versus bad eggs than it would be through grass-fed versus grain-fed beef. So that's a good shout. I'd definitely be interested in the eggs. I've paid anything from, I think, about 25 British pence per egg up to about 75 pence per egg. So the price over here is really sort of raging up now. Depends where you get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're pretty similar in quality now. It's just we have ones called like the heritage breed eggs, and the golden yolk eggs are a bit more expensive. There we go. Yeah, vacuum seal portions. Yeah, sensible. Yeah,
Nice.
people can do that, and it does work if you do it properly. That's the spirit. Very good.
Yeah, it looks like Jonathan froze, but that's an excellent point. The advantage of buying from a butcher is they'll make it with as much fat as you want, and to rather support a local butcher than a big supermarket. Yeah, I feel like I'm being guilt tripped a little bit, and I should probably just get a chest freezer and buy from a local rancher, because at least out here, Wisconsin, the American Midwest, I think cut and wrapped, I can get half a cow for under $6 a pound, with a wide variety of cuts, steaks, and ground beef. So.
Yeah, local butcher that your friends of is very helpful. I've got a farm shop down the end of my lane. I think I've mentioned this before to you guys, but it's a bit expensive, like a bit. I think a dozen eggs is about £2.50. It's about $3, and the beef, like I said earlier, it's about £12 per kilo. For minced beef, it's a bit pricey, to be honest. The steaks, they're very expensive. They're like £25 per kilo or more. But I get raw milk from there, and that's really good. It's like nice raw milk. And they also do raw cheese as well. So you can get raw halloumi, some goat's cheese, sheep's cheese, all sorts of different things. So that's quite cool as well. So I go there sometimes. Yeah, it's a 6-minute walk from my house. So if I have the option to go there, that's actually an easier option for me to get to than my local supermarkets. Often go there. But the only problem is they only open on Saturday mornings between 9 and 1. So I have to get in there, because it's basically run off. To buy raw milk here, you have to buy it off someone's land, basically, like a direct sale from farm to customer, basically. But yeah, it's quite handy, not too expensive either. Very fortunate. Yeah, we're going to wrap this up now, guys. Thank you very much for joining, and also thank you very much everyone who has kindly either joined my channel as a YouTube channel member. These rates start at £1.99 at the lowest tier, and that allows you to access all of my videos prior to the time of airing. So as soon as I make them, I put them up, basically, then you can access them and watch them. You also have access to some exclusive videos which are unique to channel members only. So that's to keep you hooked in, just so you know you guys are appreciated. And I've got different tiers. So I've got Gym Rats, Gym Bros, Gym Pros. I think they start at £1.99, then go up to £4.99, then the highest is £8.99. So I'm trying to build that up just so I've got some monetization for the couple of hours that I spend making YouTube videos each month. That's about it. Also subscribe to Jerome if you have not yet already. That's Jerome Armstrong, spelt as it sounds. And he's got lots of great content. He's doing a few more videos now. He's getting more involved in the carnivore space, and he's very intelligent. He knows lots of stuff about walking with his degree.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any last comments?
No, nothing pithy or witty. So,
All right. Anyway, check out Jerome's channel. Check out Sophie's channel as well, and every other channel that's been mentioned in this chat. I'll leave you guys to it, and take care. Thank you very much.